Our society rewards the bold and the outspoken. But it actually depends on the power of introverts. Einstein, Gandhi, Rosa Parks, Van Gogh, all these people were transformative leaders, and all of them were introverts who accomplished what they did because of their quiet temperaments, not in spite of them. In a world that never stops talking, we need to start listening to quiet, reflective people. Writing quiet took me on a journey. Along the way, I learned how we can cultivate the natural talents of quiet people, and I discovered the surprising advantages of being an introvert.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott, and I'm here with bestselling author Susan Cain. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to ask you about this group thinking, group brainstorming. What's the downside of that?
Oh gosh, I mean, really the downside is just that people don't produce as many ideas, and the ideas they produce are not as good when they're brainstorming in groups as when they are off by themselves in a state of really deep flow.
Why is that?
There's a whole bunch of reasons. One is that most people just don't feel as comfortable advancing their ideas when other people are around, because there is always a part of their brain that is that they are using to monitor how their ideas are being received, as opposed to devoting all of their cognitive energy just into thinking about the ideas. And then, there's the fact that all of us really are quite conformist at the end of the day, even if we don't think we are. So you just tend to get this kind of groupthink where the ideas that are advanced first or most loudly tend to be the ones that everybody rallies around, with no association whatsoever as to whether those are the best ideas.
What is one surprising thing that you found in your research about introverts and extroverts?
Well, I think one thing that surprises a lot of people is all the research out there on how introverted leaders often outperform extroverted leaders. And, this flies in the face of everything we think is true about what leadership really is. We've got this idea that the leader should be like the person who sort of naturally takes command and tends to be very gregarious. But in fact, there's fascinating research by Adam Grant at the Wharton School, where he found that when leaders are managing employees who are engaged and proactive, the introverted leaders deliver better outcomes because they're actually tapping all those people's ideas. Whereas for extroverts, they tend to be more dominant and put their own stamp on things, and other people's ideas aren't coming to the fore as readily. Now, on the other hand, when you have a workforce that really does need rousing and a sense of inspiration, extroverts will often be better suited to that kind of leadership.
Is it industry specific? Like, consumer electronics need introverts, or sales need extroverts? I know that I want to talk about myths in a second. But
Right. I don't think it's industry specific in terms of what the needs are so much as where you do tend to find people clustered.
Yeah.
So, at the Quiet Leadership Institute, we hear all the time from people in sectors like pharma, any sector that has to do with R&D, technology, sectors with heavy creative inputs. We hear all the time from people who say that there's this mismatch between so much of their productive input coming from really creative or analytically oriented introverts, who are then asked to operate in a prevailing culture that's very extroverted. And so,
Right.
how do you fix that mismatch?
Yeah. Talk to us about some of the myths. What are some of these myths between introverts and extroverts?
The biggest myth is the idea that introverts are antisocial. And, I really can't say this one enough. There's no difference in terms of warmth or how loving people are, how much they like or value their colleagues, between introverts and extroverts. But what you do find is that the two types are very differently social. So introverts would often rather connect, in a quieter, more one-on-one way, with people they know quite well. And extroverts tend to use their social energies more for variety and novelty. They want to meet new people. So it's just you take the same social energy and channel it completely differently.
Yeah. So maybe if you get personal and talking to the camera, you can give some your best advice to introverts and how they can succeed in, in their professional life, what would you say to them?
For succeeding in your professional life, this is going to sound kind of hokey, but honestly, it really does all start with an inner sense of entitlement to be who you are. Because once you have that sense of entitlement, you start to organize your life very differently. You start to do things like, okay, if I know I have a day full of business meetings, maybe I'm going to schedule a lunch that is just with myself, and I'm going to honor that lunch date just as carefully as I would a lunch with a client, because I know it's what I need and it's going to make me more present for the rest of the day.
And now say a bit to extroverts who are dealing with introverts, who are trying to convert and make us all into extroverts just like them.
The best advice really is to think about yin and yang, right? So instead of trying to ask people to be different from who they are, or to be more like you, or to be more like any kind of ideal that we might have in our heads of what an effective worker is supposed to be like, instead to really start to think in terms of partnerships and yin and yang. Because the truth is, there is no such thing as a successful company or endeavor that doesn't use introverts and extroverts bringing their respective strengths to the table. It doesn't exist. And if you had such a company where it was all introverts or all extroverts, it would not go well.
All right, we've been spending a few minutes with Susan Cain. Thanks for being with us, Susan.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you.